Disney on Ice 100 Years of Magic is one of the best shows I ever saw as a child. I loved the show as a child and everything about it, and the version I saw was the best out of all of the versions. Why is it the best? I think for a variety of reasons. It celebrates classic and new Disney. It has Jiminy Cricket as one of the hosts to give the show a nostalgic feel. And last but certainly not least, Stitch. We're all familiar with the Lilo and Stitch trailers where Stitch invades several different movie scenes and being turned away. He did invade most of the segments and appeared in the finale. I don't know why they cut down his part in 2010, but I think it's rare that he still appeared in the show after despite the shortened part. And in case you were wondering, yes, I did see 100 Years of Magic before they updated Jiminy Cricket. The new costume looks absolutely gorgeous by the way and is really well crafted. Speaking of which, I think his part in the show was significantly smaller than the older version at least. He doesn't appear until the end of the first act, and appears in 3 scenes plus the Pinocchio story. That's the only change that I feel was disappointing. Plus the show was one of the last shows to come from a Disney on Ice era that's far behind us, so it's great to see this show still around as a reminder how far Disney on Ice has come from since the older days, and not so much because Frozen takes up half of the show and some of us want a really long Pinocchio or Mona segment. The show marked the debut of 2 of the most recent Disney movies, Mulan and A Bug's Life. Mulan, which I know, is in a majority of Disney on Ice productions now, but rarely do any of them tell her story like this one. A Bug's Life was little to no footage of, but I can assume it's a retelling of the Bug's Life story. I think all of the segments were really well put together and timed so well so that no one goes over half an hour. And speaking of which, they all have their charms. Speaking of which, it's time for me to rank all of the show segments. Raking in at number 10 is Lion King. The segment is oddly short considering its popularity. I think Kane Clark does a pretty good job voicing Simba here, and whoever voiced Timon in the show does a much better job than in Passport to Adventure. At number 9 is the Princess segment. It's really nice, and I think a lot of the songs are insanely rushed, and I don't get why they focused on Beauty and the Beast when Snow White or Cinderella would be a good shoe-in for a story. At number 8 is Toy Story. Yes, while I'm glad that they focused on the first movie, which never happens anymore, I really thought that shoehorning in Jessie was confusing. We get Buzz meeting Woody, and then Jessie meeting them when that doesn't happen until the second movie. But I do like that she is in the segment, plus when it updated to Toy Story 4, it does make a lot of sense. At number 7 we have Nemo. I think the segment was insanely rushed. But in all honesty, it was pretty good. I like the sharks being included in the show much better than the turtles. Yes, while I understand why they were removed, but I honestly loved their song in Nemo the musical, whose songwriter also wrote Purpose from the Tony Award-winning musical Avenue Q. At number 6 is the Incredibles segment. It's the same as their first introduction to the Incredibles in the Incredibles in a Magic Kingdom Adventure, but when I saw it, the segment had a lot more dialogue from the other show as well, like Dash and Viola Davis, Finding Jack Jack. I really like the extended version of the scene a lot better than what we got. At number 5 is Beauty and the Beast. It's a pretty well done segment, and I was impressed by the enchanting objects as a child. For Lumiere, he looks better as a face character, everyone else not so much. I like Gaston climbing up the castle and the transformation. At number 4 is Aladdin. It's really funny, I love this version of Friend Like Me much better than the other 2 that I've seen. It's filled with a ton of meme potential. 3 and 2, it's a tie between Mulan and Pinocchio. Pinocchio is my second favorite Disney movie, and Mulan is somewhere in my top 10. And I think both of these segments were extremely well done and fleshed out for the time given. I don't like Mickey and Minnie narrating Mulan, which is the only nitpick I can give this segment, and I think the menstrual part was rushed. I honestly think that both of these segments have their own merits that make them really good in their own way, and I really can't choose which one I like the most. And number 1 is A Small World. I think it's one of the most well thought out numbers in the entire production. The castle transforming into the It's a Small World facade is a stroke of set design genius. And the finale section being a fun little tribute to Main Street Electrical Parade, that wowed me as a child. And you know what else impressed me as a child? Mickey floating in a balloon. And yes, while the segment was salvaged for quite a while thanks to the terrible revival of Passport to Adventure, it wasn't as brilliant as the 100 Years of Magic version. And all of the transitions are 10 out of 10. But in all honesty, I felt like if the show were to improve, I would have had the Mickey Let's It Bang opening to the first number, because that felt more of an opening number than Mickey and the gang trying to fix the Zamboni, which I think is still the funniest way to open up a Disney on Ice show. Anyways, the show ranks as an 8 out of 10. And stay tuned for part 2, where I talk about the updated version.